Now let's return to our top story. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which has now entered its 7th day. And well, for the very latest from Ukraine, we can cross live to join Arise Special Correspondent Karl Bostic, who joins us over the phone from the western Ukrainian city of Lviv. Karl, thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Now, can you please tell us the situation on the ground? Russia is claiming they have taken the port city of Kherson.
Well, that's right. That's what they claim. It is now 7 days into this invasion, and despite the fact that, yes, Russian tanks are into the port city of Kherson, that's important because if it's true, that would be the first major city that's been captured under Russian control. However, the mayor of Kherson says it's not true. Yes, tanks are in the city, but there's actually still fighting in that city to retain control. So really, it's a desperate situation in Kherson because it's in the southeast of Ukraine and next to Kharkiv, which is further to the north. The plan would be to link those two together to begin securing the eastern part of Ukraine. So Kherson would be a major victory for Russia if that's true, but the Kherson mayor say that is not the case. But meanwhile, it's Kharkiv where all eyes are on. You saw that tremendous blast yesterday in the main square of Kharkiv, and today they're still pulling bodies out of the rubble of Kharkiv. And what this shows is that tactics have now changed. They're not just going after military targets, it's now indiscriminate bombing.
And what about where you are in Lviv? What's the mood in the city like?
Well, what's interesting, my day began, I was about to go downstairs for breakfast, and the air raid sirens went off, and everyone had to go to the bomb shelter. And that's where I spent the next hour or so. So it's very, very unpredictable. People on edge. But you also have to remember is Lviv, western Ukraine, it's hundreds of miles away from what's going on in the east. And right now, it's the last jumping off point for people who are fleeing from the fighting and the bombardment. It's the last point before they can cross the border into Poland. The problem is, some are staying as well. So right now, you've got about 400,000 people who have gone into Poland from Ukraine via Lviv. 400,000 people. Yesterday, there was 98,000 people going from Ukraine to Poland. But as a result of that, you've got a backlog of people staying in Lviv, about 40,000 staying in Lviv. They're now internally displaced people. We were at the train station the other day, hundreds of people there. And I have to be honest with you, there are lots of Africans here, lots of African students here, and they are basically being treated entirely differently. They're not being allowed to get on the trains. It's women and children first. So there's a really kind of a distinction that's going on right now that's making a lot of people unhappy. The irony is, a lot of these Africans are professional students, engineering, medical students. In fact, the biggest foreign student contingent here in Ukraine are Nigerians. More than 20% of all foreign students are Nigerians. So you're seeing those kinds of scenes here. And separate from that, the living conditions. Because now you've got hundreds living in cramped spaces in the train stations and other locations, there's now a worry about a spread of not only COVID, but also things like polio and tuberculosis. So now you're seeing a double crisis. You're seeing a humanitarian refugee crisis, and you're seeing a health crisis as these refugees are now going into Europe, and they may be carrying diseases with them.
So, Karl, what are the prospects for a ceasefire? Are peace talks set to resume again?
Well, actually, they're saying maybe later today there will be talks between Russian and the Ukrainian side, but Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, says we're not going to be talking to anyone until this bombing stops. And so as a result, hopes are really very, very low for any breakthrough at all because it's at a stalemate right now. Zelensky says we're not even sending a delegation until the bombing and the shelling stops in places like Kharkiv, or you've got this convoy now headed to Kiev. And that's another story right there because this convoy is 40 miles long, and it's stalled outside the city of Kiev for many reasons, which are just incredible. They're running out of fuel, they're running out of food, and even morale is very, very low.
Well, finally, Karl, before we let you go, please tell us more about the humanitarian crisis which is unfolding right now.
Well, again, as I said, you've got a situation now where at the end of 1 week, more than 670,000 people now have fled Ukraine. At this rate, it'll hit about maybe more than 4 million people. And they're simply overwhelmed. And now there's a spread, worry about the spread of diseases, not only COVID, but also polio and tuberculosis. Yesterday was 98,000 coming in from Ukraine into Poland. But it's not only Poland; they're going into Romania and also Moldova. The problem also now is to get humanitarian aid into Ukraine, which is now having a few 100,000 internally displaced people. So it's the biggest humanitarian crisis in Europe this century so far. Actually, going back to the 1990s of the Balkan Wars, and it's happening all within the space of 1 week.
Well, Karl Bostic, we want you to stay safe out there, and thank you so much for joining the program this afternoon.